Uh, question. This is gonna get sound cheesy, but question from my mother. She texted me too.
Oh wow.
Because I just asked her, I was like, do any of you at home, like, do you guys just want to ask something and whatever? And
Okay.
she even says, like, does it have to be about hockey or about you? And I was like, it's literally, it doesn't matter.
It's always like,
And
85-90% centered around hockey.
yeah,
Uh,
we've got quite a few hockey questions, but I was just like, can be hockey, doesn't have to. And there goes Patty. Um,
I'm sorry, what?
there goes Patrick Line.
Is it 3-0?
3-0 from
Jeez.
KJ, from Rosie and KJ.
Okay, so we're gonna lose this game.
Yeah, we are.
Okay. All
Absolutely.
right.
We're
No,
gonna
no,
blow
I'm a
this league
little
big time.
relieved to be honest, knowing that we're up 3-0 now, knowing I can sleep safely and soundly tonight that we will blow this lead and lose again to the Penguins and help out our tank.
Watch Gensel get another ghost goal.
Good.
It's already 3-1 in my eyes.
It's already 3-2 in my eyes. He's due for 2 tonight. Actually, it's 3-3. He's due for 2, and Brian Rust is due for a goal.
Yeah, he is.
So wow, good for the Blue Jackets. They're tied with the
already
Penguins right now.
no. We're already losing because I think Jeff Carter's kind of due for one.
Oh God.
Okay. So anyway, context. I was just like, anything doesn't matter. Can be hockey, doesn't have to. And she goes, like, and this can go for both of us. What happened that turned you into such a hockey freak?
Funny enough, I did not start out a Blue Jackets fan, as you know. My dad's old business partner, who lived in Youngstown, had a 20-game package with the Penguins and would take my dad to about 4 or 5 games a year to the Penguins. And in 2009, I remember it perfectly because I've gone back and watched the highlight video from the game before.
Really?
Yes, I found it. It was in November of 2009. The reigning defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins were taking on Patrice Bergeron and the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about hockey at the time.
How old would you have been? You would have been about 10, right?
I would have been 10. I was 10 years old. And, I went with them. They're like, hey, like, this is Sidney Crosby. He's pretty good. They were right.
He's pretty good.
This is Evgeny Malkin. He's also pretty good.
He's
right.
okay. He's all right.
This is Chris Letang. He's young, but he's going to be very good. They were right. They're like, this is Zdeno Chara. He's tall and he's really good.
He's huge and he's amazing.
And in that game, I fell in love with hockey because the Penguins were down 5-4. And they tied the game. Bill Guerin off the post and in with 0.4 seconds on the clock. And then Pascal Dupuis won it in overtime.
Pascal Dupuis, I love him. Yeah. He was great.
Like, it's such a memorable first game. And like, even though I'm not a Penguins fan anymore, because my dad and his business partner at the time, they went their separate ways. My dad owns his own business now.
Right.
So, we didn't have the game. We didn't have easy access to Penguins tickets anymore. We did to the Blue Jackets. They were a hell of a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
We hadn't really established like a gigantic fandom with the Penguins yet. So we kept rooting for them on the side, but eventually we were just Blue Jackets fans, and then they met in the playoffs, and now we have, the one-sided rivalry with the Penguins. But
yeah.
And then funny enough,
and then all the
Blue Jackets game came against the Stanley Cup defending Blackhawks. So first game I went for the Penguins, first game I went for the Blue Jackets included the reigning defending Stanley Cup champion in the game.
That's crazy, man. That's such a wild story, especially with 2 defending cup winners at the time.
I mean, like, I think back because, like, it's crazy about how much talent I saw in that game is still in the freaking league today. We're talking November 2009. Bergeron, Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Milan Lucic.
Oh yeah,
Lucic would have been playing at the time.
Luch, Sagan.
I don't think Marchand
No, wait,
was.
Sagan. No,
I don't think Marchand. No, because Sagan hadn't been drafted yet. But I don't think Marchand was in that game.
but Patrick Kane was at your first
Patrick Kane,
game.
Jonathan
Taves was there, where you fell in love with Rick Nash.
Yeah, I fell in love
Hell.
with Rick Nash. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else on that Blackhawks team. I don't think so. Yeah, so like,
I mean, Siebes and Keith probably would have been.
Yeah, they would have, but they're retired now. But they were just recently in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, same goes for Zdeno Chara.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, we're talking 14 years ago. If you think about it, 13 to 14 years ago, that happened. There's still decent amount of players playing today, and
they're still so good.
Just not that long ago playing.
They're still so good. The guys that are still in the league, like, yeah, they're in the twilight of their career, but they're like, whoa,
right. Like, it's like, we're not talking about guys who are like kind of just out there wilting away on the ice. Like, Crosby's still like a point per game player.
Yeah.
Same with Bergeron. He's still winning the Bergeron award every year.
Yeah.
It's like,
I love how we're just preemptively calling it the Bergeron Award too. Like, because I mean, it is, yeah.
God, Jake, Marc-Andre Fleury's still playing.
Oh my God, he is.
Flower was in that. Yeah. He's not with the Penguins anymore, but he's still in the league. God, it's crazy. Like,
how did we do
this game? I saw Marc-Andre Fleury, who's probably going to be a future Hall of Famer.
I think that just
since that happened,
he's been on
three other joined the league.
2 teams have joined the league, and Mark played for 3 others.
He played for one of those teams. He played for Vegas, and then he was in Chicago.
And now he's in Minnesota, who we keep forgetting. Still, I'm sorry to our Minnesota people, but like, even though we just talked about Jared Spurgeon ad nauseum the last couple of shows.
And Kaprizov too. But
and Kaprizov,
it's crazy. So yeah, I fell in love with hockey then. I've been obsessed since. People ask me all the time what my favorite sport is. Don't get me wrong. I love basketball. I love
baseball. Yeah.
I love football. But I loved hockey first.
Yes. For me, it's really like, it goes back to when I was really young and we had like a minor league team around my city. Because the Dayton Bombers were a team way back in the day.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe you're referring to the Cyclones, if you had made trips down there or whatnot. But yeah,
I still haven't been to a Cyclones game, and my aunt works for them, and I need to go.
Yeah, I haven't been to one either.
But yeah, so the Bombers way back in the day when I was super little, they played out of the Nutter Center.
They played out of the what?
The Nutter Center. Yes. Yes. So go ahead, laugh it up. Laugh it up.
I am laughing.
That's where I graduated high school too. So the Bombers were a thing, and they were awesome. They were super fun. It was like back in, it was like pre-lockout kind of days, right? Or like just coming out of lockout.
Right.
Where everybody was still rough and tumble, and you think about the Trashers.
Yeah,
of course you do. And then I kind of fell out of it for a while, just growing up around other sports and other things, like developing my love for movies, developing my love for music, and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then 2012 happens, and my stepdad and couple of our friends and Seth went. We went to Hara Arena for a Dayton Gems game.
Okay.
And I was watching, and I don't know. Part of it was the atmosphere at Hara. Part of it was just watching everybody fly around.
Yeah.
Right? Because I would have been, 14, 15 at the time.
Right.
And the other part of it was they also they would play cowbell and flash pictures of Will Ferrell playing his cowbell every
nice.
time they scored. It was great.
Nice.
And I just got hooked on the atmosphere of the sport. And before too long, the Jackets came along, and I was getting into Twitter, and then we all came together.
Yeah.
As like this conglomerate fan base when the artillery guys launched and everything.
Would have been what, some point, like I want to say like either late 13 or early 14.
That was late. That was 13ish because I remember launching.
I joined in early 2013, and it wasn't immediate, but I remember we had all been together for the playoff run in 13-14. So at some point between the start of the 13-14 season and the playoffs, that all developed.
Right, and it was so much fun getting everybody together and bonding as a fan base and growing. And you look
up at the cannon, which is a nice landmark to have in an arena because not only is it cool, but it's a nice place where you're like, oh, where should we meet? Well, let's meet at the cannon. We all know where that is.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it's not as big as it was back then, but everybody still goes during the first intermission, and it used to be a huge deal, and I loved it every second, just getting to meet all of our friends.
Yeah.
Like the first time I met you and Ellie, hell, this is still one of my favorite game memories.
We're talking about like this is probably the last time I saw you in person.
Yeah, exactly. It was years and years ago.
We're talking about like 14 or 15, like
right.
I was a baby.
Yeah, and you didn't have your glasses. You had no facial hair.
No facial hair.
I looked glasses.
I had glasses. I just didn't wear them.
Right. I looked like I was Ellie's brother. In that picture, I swear I could post it as like a throwback thing.
It's crazy how fast time's gone, and
I know, and it's like I miss everybody still. I haven't seen Ellie in ages. I haven't seen Jordan and Matt in forever. I haven't seen Dennis.
It was funny enough. The last time I saw Ellie was
a baseball game, right?
At the Guardians, yeah.
Yeah.
When they played the Twins,
and she went to the Monsters Outdoor Classic.
Yeah, and I was downtown that night, but I was going to the Cavs game, so I didn't.
Right.
Our paths didn't cross because the game was delayed, so
right.
They wouldn't have gotten out of the arena until during the basketball game. So I didn't have a chance there, but.
Yeah, that's really how it was for me. Was just like the moment was that Gems game, and then when I found the Blue Jackets and I found like pro hockey, like the NHL level, I was like, oh, I am hooked on these guys.
I think another thing, like for me, on top of that was like the Olympics too.
Yeah.
2010. Like granted, I'd been to the one game, but in 2009. But when 2010 and Sochi happened, like
that Sochi was 14. I was gonna say Sochi was 14.
Oh yeah, Vancouver, yeah, because it was at home for Canada. That's right.
Yeah.
And when Vancouver happened in 2010. Remember, the United States were a goal away from freaking winning that thing, man. Everybody was hooked to their TV.
And the golden goal from Sid and Iggy was beautiful.
Yeah. And that was like, so remember, at the time, I was rooting for the Penguins. That was a conflicting moment because it's like, oh, I love Sid, but man, I wanted to see
our country,
the States win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember watching the first game back for the Penguins. After that, they played the Sabres, and nobody was like booing Crosby or anything. That's their own player, but they gave a huge standing Penguins fans gave a huge standing ovation at home to Ryan Miller for his efforts in the tournament because he was phenomenal.
Brilliant. That's actually a great transition into my mom's other question. Oh shoot, I lost it. Okay, here we go. What is your favorite hockey play of all time?
Hockey play. Wow, that's a really good question.
Yeah. That's actually a really good question. She was literally just like, I don't know what to ask, and I was like, just ask anything. That's why it's called an anime.
Like when you ask like hockey play, what it really means is what's your favorite hockey moment?
Yeah,
Uh,
because plays happen so fast.
yeah, and like you always remember certain moments. Um, what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna give the obvious answer, but it's not gonna be my answer. I'm gonna make my answer non-Blue Jackets related, because the obvious choice would be beating Tampa.
Yeah.
Non-Blue Jackets moment, like a moment that I remember where I was, and I remember my audible reaction at that moment in time, just freaking out, like, oh my god, was Alec Martinez's overtime goal against the Rangers to win the cup.
Yeah.
Like that was a moment. Like I was with my friends, we were chilling in the basement. I was rooting for the Kings that year, and it was just like it's just one of those moments that like it happened like so quick. It's like, oh my god, like it's crazy. To win a championship in overtime like that
Yeah.
was just nuts. It's one of those like moments that isn't like my team related that I just sit and I remember exactly where I was.
Right.
Similar to like what I would compare it to, even though it wasn't a championship winning moment, was like for basketball. When I think about that, I think of like sitting in my living room and watching the shot that Kawhi hit against the Sixers and like
Yeah.
losing my mind and going, oh my God, like I can't
He
believe
made that shit.
like holy shit. Like that thing was bouncing and bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. Like, yeah. I think it also helps because like it was a home game for the Kings too. So like
Yeah, and the
in
crowd could
overtime,
just like lose
the
it.
whole crowd just freaking out, arms, shit flying everywhere, people probably throwing beers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like like the gloves flying, like it was just, yeah, that's one of my favorites because
Yeah.
I always will remember that.
Mine is more of a Blue Jackets moment. Um, and it's not Tampa.
Is it
Well, well,
Polino?
well, it's not. I will. Okay, so Fliggy's going to be the honorable mention for this.
Okay. I was
Because
wondering if that was the
because
direction
the
because
the celly with that
yeah,
was
the
just like him
celly, the
pumping like
fans
this.
blowing out the speakers in the arena that night from being so damn loud.
I mean, being
Uh,
against the Penguins too, and just being
yeah.
able to
Well,
claw back.
coming on the heels of the insane misplay by Marc-Andre Fleury that led to the game even being able to go to overtime. That series was so crazy. You think
I
about the
will
first
never
four
forget.
games of that series, like,
Yeah, I'll never forget
uh,
the look on Fliggy's face with that either. Just this huge energy that he's got. That's just like,
yeah.
right. It is. I miss that guy so much, and I'm so happy he's gonna retire here and do things here still and live his life here.
I think so. Like, just a side note, like about that series that like I love, like, and I'll say it because the Blue Jackets are playing the Penguins tonight.
Yeah.
It is maybe and I don't just say this as a Blue Jackets fan. It is maybe the craziest series I've ever watched that didn't go 7 games.
The
Because game
2014.
one,
Yeah.
yeah, game one, Blue Jackets up 3-1, they lose 4-3. Game two,
Oh.
Penguins up 3-1, they lose 4-3, so tied. The Blue Jackets in game three up 3-1, they lose that game. Game four, the Penguins up 3-0, they lose that game. Game five, Blue Jackets were up 1-0, but the Penguins won that one 3-1. And then
Slugfest. It's like
game six, the Penguins were up 4-0, and the Blue Jackets almost tied it. They lost 4-3. That ended the series, but they were so close to tying it, sending it to overtime, and maybe sending the series to a seventh game.
Side note, since we're talking about playing the Penguins, end of the first, 3-0 Columbus were up in shots 9-8.
So 40 to go.
There's still 40 to go. But my actual big moment, the 5 overtime game, dude.
Yeah, I guess I didn't include that because they lost.
Well, it's like just the story behind the game itself, the memes that came out of that bubble game everywhere.
Welcome for the seventh period stretch.
The 7th period stretch was probably one of my favorites out of
I've always
because there were 4 or something like screens.
Yeah,
That were just
like in
hilarious.
the corners. that they used. But I have always said this, and it's the God's honest truth. Um, I've seen a lot of Blue Jackets games that have been heartbreaking. Obviously, a lot of like gutted moments and stuff like that
Of
come to
course.
mind. But out of all the playoff losses I've experienced, that was the one where I just wasn't upset at all.
No, I was
Because
like,
I just that thing went so damn long and it was so fun to watch. When Tampa finally won that thing in overtime, I was like, you know what? I didn't really think we had much of a
that's
shot in the series
respect.
anyway. Like I didn't even care. Like I was like, that was just amazing. That was fantastic to watch.
It was
I
brilliant
appreciated the
hockey.
good hockey. And there was no like feeling in like the pit of my stomach, like, oh, no dejection,
No.
nothing. It was
Well,
just
because
pure entertainment.
we've talked about, where we were at that time, and it was like that game started at 3:30 in the afternoon. I was
And they
getting
had to
off of a
cancel a
shift
7 o'clock game and move it to the next night because we were still
the next
freaking playing.
morning.
Yeah,
The next
right.
morning. Because they played at like 11 or something.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, I got messages from people, from Canes fans going, thanks, Jake.
Yeah, well, my
It's
one
like,
roommate's a Bruins fan, and he was just like, "That's a lot, asshole." Like,
it was like
so
that
you
game
guys just can't help but play hockey right now.
starts at 3:30, doesn't end until a normal game would at like 9:30 in the evening, 10 o'clock. And I remember, coming home, we're watching, all the overtimes are happening. Third overtime starts, and my mom and stepdad are glued to the TV with me just because they're like, my whole thing was just like, you know, anticipation, right?
Yeah,
And just getting hooked into the game. And my parents are sitting there going, this thing isn't over yet.
yeah. Like, I don't know. I want to say probably after the third overtime, like that, like nervous feeling, nervous energy you have in your body when
Mhm.
you're watching a playoff game, it just evaporated, and it just went into
Yeah.
me just watching a hockey game.
Yeah,
And that
exactly.
was really cool because I had never experienced that with a playoff game before.
Overtime four started, and I was just like, there was no nerves, there was nothing, like I wasn't shaking, it was just zoned into the screen.
Yeah,
And I was literally, I
it
was
was
like,
nuts.
I felt like Sherlock when he's analyzing shit, and he's just
Yeah,
like, you see his eyes, rapid eye movement going like that.
yeah.